Daniel 7, 4 great beasts, 10 kings, addendum part 2. The nagging problem from the Laodicean concern is whether the evolution of the 10-10 king concept in prophetic time is a valid hermeneutic. Laodiceans say the great red dragon, 7 heads, and its 10 horns of Revelation 12 involve the 7 heads of the 4 consecutive beasts of Daniel 7, and then apply the 7 heads of the great red dragon of Revelation 12 to the 7 kings of Revelation 17, which is impossible because the scarlet woman was not about in the era of the great red dragon. And to make things more confusing, Laodicea yet cannot identify the 10 crowned kings of Revelation 13. Sound familiar? And the confusion is compounded because, as Laodicea says, Revelation 13 hosts animal metaphors equals bear, leopard, lion, Revelation 13, 1-2. And so Laodicea's long-standing conclusion from the Millerite era of the 1830s that Papa Pointyhead is the blasphemous king of Revelation 13. And so its blasphemy is the national Sunday law. But then it must be asked, why is Papa Pointyhead, the scarlet woman, suffer destruction in Revelation 17:16? That's a problem. Why? How do you have a national Sunday law when the scarlet woman and her city is destroyed? Revelation 17:16. Laodicea's Revelation 13 problem. It's a fact. Laodicea has reversed the fatal wound of verse 3 with Revelation 13:5 equals by saying the fatal wound occurred after the 1260 years ending in 1798. Laodicea then registers a twofold problem. Is a simple read of Revelation 13:3-5 when trusted grammatically. The Bible reads, the fatal wound occurs first, equals verse 3. Then there is 42 months to follow, equals verse 5. Read it for yourself. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. In other words, the text reads, 1, the deadly wound, then, number 2, the 42 months, equals 1260. The next problem is Revelation 13, speaking of a reign of the first beast for 1260 years, or literal days. The answer is, of course, the latter. There cannot be another 1260 years following the destruction of the scarlet woman and her city. It must be the antitypical of the transgression of desolation, which is the 1290 days described as the abomination of desolation of Daniel 12:11, equals Matthew 24:15. The 1290 days of Revelation 13 includes the second beast, whose reign is 30 days and ends the 1290 days of Daniel 12:11. Reversing Revelation 13:3-5 to fit the 1260 and the 1290 years of Daniel 8:13 is a fatal theological interpretive mistake because it concerns answering the matter of Daniel 8:13 equals until when and the sanctuary doctrine. Also to be noted, the first beast of Revelation 13 has 10 crowned horns. And this is not mentioned or established by Laodicea, but relates implicitly with Daniel 8:13 and the sanctuary doctrine and the seal of God. Daniel 7 establishes 2 facts. The fact that verses 8 and verse 23 are talking about 2 separate events in the prophetic history of the 4th beast. The first event, verse 8, relates to the end of the transition age of the Roman Empire and how the last 3 Aryan barbarian kings, who were Witiges, Totila, and Tia, were plucked up by the roots as a people, meaning the Ostrogoths. These 3 Aryan kings were successfully defeated by the Eastern Roman Empire, whose conflict with the Ostrogoths ended in 553 AD. This became official code of law in 554 AD with the signing of Justinian's royal primate sanction. 554 plus 1260 equals 1814. 554 plus 1290 equals 1844. The Ostrogoths disappeared from the historical map of Europe and were swallowed up by the populations of Western Europe. For it is written, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Daniel 7:17 presents a similar scenario, yet future, which has its fulfillment when the 10th and final successive kingdom is reached, and has nothing to do in relation to the end of the transition age, which ended in 554 AD. This event marked the restoration of the Catholic Church in Western Europe under its second social order, by which imperial unity of both Western and Eastern Europe was accomplished by Justinian's forces after the defeat of those final and literal 3 kings whose names were Witiges, Totila, and Tia. Remaining 7 kings of Daniel 7. The remaining 7 kings are defined in Revelation 17:10, which marked the time frame of the Holy Roman Empire as presented from the biblical perspective, which, in reality, began with Justinian. Whereas historians will mark this commencement as taking place with Charlemagne, after he defeated the Lombards by 774 AD. Daniel 7:23. Daniel 7:23 is the second fact of this chapter, and rather than marking the restoration of the Roman Church to power in Europe, it is actually describing the return of the Roman Empire in the form of the beast that was and became the is not during its Catholic phase. Its final restoration is marked by the phrase equals yet is. Will ascend from the bottomless pit. Revelation 17:8 is confirmation of Daniel 7:23. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. 10 successive horns, a European historical reality. Daniel 11:38-39 proves the point, since this scripture plainly presents the succession of 2 of the 10 successive horns, which Revelation 17:10 mentions as the first 2 of the scarlet Catholic kings, namely Justinian and Charlemagne. Daniel 11:36 presents the Roman emperor beast that was, Roman emperor beast, Roman emperor past and future. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. And he shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that which is determined shall be done. The is not period of the beast, Daniel 11:38, presents the transfer into the Holy Roman Empire, and not the first social order of the church, which was Constantine in 313 AD. Justinian and Charlemagne. But in his place he shall honor the God of fortresses, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. And he shall deal with the strongest fortresses by the help of a foreign god. Whosoever acknowledgeth him he will increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for a price. The interesting thing about these 2 verses lay in the fact that Justinian built the Hagia Sophia Church in Turkey, which was supposed to be rival Solomon's temple. He did construct it with the items mentioned in the blue highlight. Later, the verse goes into the time frame of Charlemagne, who was the first Holy Roman Emperor to establish the feudal system in Europe of apportioning the land to nobles. This system of feudal rule would extend from the time frame of Charlemagne down through history in the time of Charles V, whose world-ruling territories extended to the Philippines and into Latin America. The system was briefly interrupted by the French Revolution, during the 5th ruler of this scarlet system being Napoleon Bonaparte, and resurfaced briefly during the time frame of the 6th head, equals King Victor Emmanuel's fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, and the three concordats equals Lateran Pacts, signed by Mussolini, Franco of Spain, and Adolf Hitler of Germany. After 1946 of the Concordat of 1929 equals the Lateran Pacts. The Lateran Treaty made it law that a compulsory 8% per 1,000 is levied on Italian taxpayers, and the beneficiary is to be an organized religion recognized by the Italian government equals Roman Catholic Church or similar social assistance scheme. Note number 4 in the list of beneficiaries. See this link right here. A seventh ruler is now brewing on the horizon. Defined in Revelation 17:10, last portion of the verse. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. The 7th king will last a brief period of time, just prior to his demise, as is stated in Daniel 11:45, with the upcoming 8th king, bringing to fruition the concept of being diverse, equals Daniel 7:19-23, equals Revelation 13, which will be by way of the introduction of Luciferianism. Notice Revelation 13 states that after the healing of the fatal wound, the world will worship the beast of Revelation 17:11, as well as the dragon equals Satan. Which means you must to pay close attention to the Godhead and the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies. Why? A global feudalism is to be set up with all rich and poor, free and slave, taking the mark of the beast and its number on the forehead and right hand. The interesting matter is that the beast will lay low, equals subdue 3 of the 10 kings, as a future event which will take place, and is definitely not like the uprooting of the 3 Aryan kings, equals Witigis Totilantia. Verify yourself the Hebrew for these 2 words. Here equals uproot, and this word equals subdue. Here's your links. Both have different meanings and confirm different prophetic time frames and contexts. This presents a significant challenge to Laodicean theology, who bundled together Papa Pointy-Hat with Daniel 7:8 and 7:24 and Revelation 13, coming to naught in their grasp of the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. The Yahapsil will probably prove to be something totally different, perhaps in the form of being humbled by way of the 8th king's military might. God said this will take place once the 10-10 scenario is reached, and appears to take place in relation to or with the downfall of Vatican City of Revelation 17:16, as well as the 7th Holy Roman Empire, along with some other individual, but we cannot be dogmatic about this, since it appears that the downfall of these 2 individuals might be different from the downfall of 3 of the 10 global regions, as in the form of regional heads. But one must still watch. The confusion of the matter relates to Laodicea's theological belief that verse 8 of Daniel 7 is the same as 7:17. Daniel 7:17, these great beasts which are 4 kings that shall arise out of the earth, but the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I desired to know the truth concerning the 4th beast, which was diverse from all of them, exceeding terrible, whose teeth were of iron, and its nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with its feet. And concerning the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, and before which 3 fell, even that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. All that is highlighted reveals the true end time application. Why? there have never existed 10 contemporaneous kingdoms, side by side from the time frame of the Aryan incursions into Western Europe up to this time frame, 2025. Considering that this is factual history, it makes Laodicea's 10 horns on its heads irrelevant for the following reason. This second divine viewpoint of Daniel 7:17 to 24 brings a prophetic dynamic that has been seriously neglected. Here's a layout of the 10 successive kingdoms. Witiges to Laodicea equals the end of the transition age. 554 AD equals Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, Napoleon, King Victor Emmanuel in the Hitler-Mussolini axis. Then the upcoming great monarch equals the 10th consecutive government. Then its overthrow in the form of the fatal wound, which is later healed, with the beast being the diverse king who also lays low 3 of the 10 horns, equals the contemporaneous union at the very end. See Revelation 13:1 and 2. Daniel 7 states the following in reference to witnessing the 10th successive revival. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And as for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom shall 10 kings arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the former, and he shall put down, yes, Hapsel, 3 kings. And he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and he shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a half a time. Daniel is not targeting the original description of the Roman Empire. He is targeting the 10 horns which arise after the fourth beast, and this is the most important point about another kingdom, arising after the 10th successive king. This cannot possibly be the so-called 10 barbarian tribes that supposedly transformed the face of Western Europe, since it has already been stated that 10 contemporaneous kingdoms at the end of the transition age, 476 AD, was never a historical reality, but a Laodicean myth. Another confusing element lays in the translation of Revelation 17:12 to 16. The 10 horns on the head of the beast, or the 10 horns and the beast? Revelation 17. And the 10 horns that thou sawest are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one mind, and they shall give their power and authority unto the beast. These shall war against the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they also shall overcome that are with him, called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the harlot sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. American Standard Version. And the 10 horns which thou sawest, and the beast, these shall hate the harlot, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and shall utterly burn her utterly with fire. Why is the above correct? Answer. The answer is because the 10 horns are 10 contemporaneous regional leaders as well as regions, and the beast is an individual. In this case, the American Standard Version above presents the matter in a more realistic fashion. Young's literal translation, and the 10 horns that thou didst see upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and shall burn her in fire. Upon the beast, used in Young's translation, is more figurative language and is irrelevant, since God makes them regional leaders during the 1 hour period. They become kings, thus confirming what is stated in Zechariah 8:23. Young's literal translation says, thus said Yahweh of hosts, in those days take hold to 10 men of all languages, of the nations. Yea, they have taken hold on the skirt of a man, a Jew, saying, we go with you, for we heard God is with you. Equals Isaiah 2 and Revelation 11. American Standard Version, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all the languages of the nations. They shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. Revelation 13. And he stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns 10 diadems, and upon his heads names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as though it had been smitten unto death, and his death stroke was healed. So how do we know that the 8th king lays low 3 of the 10 horns? It states it in verse 20. And concerning the 10 horns that were on its head, and another horn which came up, and before which 3 fell, even that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, equals beastly. Now notice the context of the laying low and its relation to the saints of the Most High in verse 21. I beheld, and the same horde made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greco, Macedonia, Rome. Lion, bear, four-headed leopard, and dreadful beast. Problem is that this original arrangement of Daniel 7 changed once the woman sat over the beast, starting with Justinian in 554 AD. This changed the prior arrangement of the heads listed above, since the woman of Revelation 17 never rode over the 4th beast, but only up until the time frame is depicted in Revelation 17:10's first king equals Justinian. As mentioned, this can be proven by a study of Daniel 11:38-39, when Justinian built the Hagia Sophia with precious stones and costly materials. Zechariah 8:23 is Old Jerusalem, is Old Testament, and presents for those with eyes to see Japhet leadership during the time frame of the demolition of the Papa Pointy Hat equals Revelation 17:12-16. Laodicea experiences significant cognitive dissonance with this verse in Zechariah 8. And why? This prophetic event never took place during the Old Testament. So the 10 horns as depicted in Daniel 7 are the successive continuance of the 4th beast. And it goes to show that by the time we reach the 7th scarlet king, a fatal wound is inflicted upon the beast, which, after the demise of the 7th being her husband, she, the scarlet woman, states that she sits as a queen and will not experience widowhood. And that presents the clear giveaway that the woman will be eliminated by this 8th king. See Revelation 17:12-16. Both verses targeting who this leader is, as presented in Zechariah 8:23, Daniel 8:23 and 24, equals a man of fierce countenance. When transgression has reached its fullness, equals Revelation 17:11, equals 8th king. Zechariah 8:23, fitting hand with glove, with Isaiah 2, and then in Revelation 11, with the death of the 2 witnesses as this individual was risen from the bottomless pit, equals beast. Therefore, the 10:10 scenario of Revelation 13 as the 7th head receiving a fatal wound is in fact this future scenario of Revelation 17:10, with the difference being that Revelation 17 states that the woman would sit over 7 kings, whom historically were Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, Napoleon, and the Axis powers, leading to the last one, or 7th, who is followed by the Luciferian 8th king. The lion, bear, leopard description simply borrows the symbolism from the beast that was equals ancient Rome, and it was restored to its original status after the is not period of time is completed, which will include the demolition of the Papa Pointy Hat, which is as depicted in Revelation 17:12-16 and Revelation 18. Both target that 1 hour period of demolition. It's that the 7th king's downfall and then the rise of the 8th king is clearly depicted in Revelation 17:11. Beast is an 8th king, and of the 7 10 king myths. There is no evidence for the fourth beast in the form of the great red dragon having 10 Roman emperors. Configuration from its commencement period with the Etruscan culture up to 476 AD. There were 150 emperors from the year 27 BC, with Augustus Caesar being the first one up to Romulus Augustus, who was deposed in 476 AD. Anyone who tries to create a 10-horn scenario prior to what is stated in Scripture at the end of the transition age, 535 to 554 AD, is creating a false construct of the Roman Empire, since in reality it was the old world of Europe, but never Asia, as in China, or what is today Russia, or the Pacific, or Latin America. What this 10-king scenario is really talking about, the Great Red Dragon, is the completeness of the devil's dominance over the planet. Why? Because the number 10 denotes completeness as in universal control by way of the temporal sin problem. And it is this same temporal configuration when transgression has reached its fullness as in the last remnant of time. Yet prior to this, Satan offered all the kingdoms of this world to the man-child, and this global dominance was emphasized by the dragon when Jesus was tested in the wilderness. The devil stated that he had been given all the kingdoms of this world, yet in its final configuration it will be divided into 10 regions. The regional aspect could only be at the end of the age, because the devil's so-called supreme control is impeded by the servants of Jesus Christ, in the form of the 144,000 who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These are the ones able to stand, Revelation 6:17, responding to the question, who is able to make war with him? Revelation 13:4. For it is none other than the power of Christ's everlasting righteousness, Revelation 12:10, that overcomes this contemporaneous union of evil, and therein what becometh this Daniel 7:27. That power is the key of David and the Alpha and the Omega. Yes, it's all found in Revelation 13:8, the centerpiece of theology of Revelation 13, and the war with the two beasts and the dragon. Anyone home? Hello? Whereas in contrast, the devil has the key of the bottomless pit and emerges his servant from that subterranean stronghold which impersonates the heavens. Yet it's the place where the dragon governs this planet. See Job chapter 1 and Philippians 2:10. So after the Alpha and the Omega series, do you now begin to see the importance of Revelation 13:8 with Daniel 8:13? Now, having Daniel 7 and Revelation 13, 17 and chapter 12, and the 10 kings sorted, have you as yet figured out why Daniel 8:13 is of absolute importance when it comes to the sanctuary doctrine, John 40:22, and the seal of God, Revelation 7? Well, it should get your full attention, because Daniel fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.